Hi everybody, it's me, GhostCritic. Thank you for joining me for another comic book review video. It is the day where I take all those comic books that I have been reading over the last 4 or 5 days and kind of bring them all together and try and not ramble about my thoughts and opinions on said titles. It was a difficult week this week. There was nothing really that hit that sweet spot, and I guess it's kind of that 5th week of the month comics where not a great deal came out. It was annuals, it was one-shots, it was kind of stories tagged on. It was a trial to get through this week's comics, and I kind of feel it's going to get reflected in a lot of the things I talk about within them. So apologies for this. I'll try and keep it as positive and upbeat as I can, but it's difficult. For those of you who are new here, thank you for joining me to start with, and don't forget to hit subscribe, that notification bell, thumb this video up and comment down below. I will reply to everyone who comments as soon as I can. Beware, there will be spoilers, so proceed with caution. And I'm going to kick off with the book that I just don't understand why. Daredevil Annual number 1. I have no idea over the relevance of this. Yes, I get it's ka-ching ka-ching, it's an annual, it's like, what is it, $5. Yes, there's extra pages, but what's inside just feels superfluous. It's a story of a bygone age where Daredevil was new to the rooftops of New York City, and Misty Knight wasn't yet part of the kind of superhero clique. She's just a hard-working, tough-talking detective beating the New York streets and who doesn't really like superheroes. But guess what? By the end of this issue, she doesn't think they're all that bad. And that's about the most of it. They kind of have this team up where they take down some baddies. There's a kind of friction from Misty towards Daredevil, and she's got a backstory of, you know, family members dying, so, and it's something to do with superheroes as well, so of course she doesn't like them. But by the end of it, she kind of has a different outlook on the superhero community, and she doesn't think they're maybe all that bad, but there just seems to be this behind the scenes kind of sneaking in storyline or plot point or point that they want to make, that it's not just all about the superheroes. There's the cops beating the streets of New York every day. They're just as much heroic as our superheroes are, and obviously those cops don't have the super heightened powers that our heroes of these titles have. I guess Misty Knight is here just because, well, I guess she made an appearance in the first issue of Sentry. I don't know whether she's been carried on in that book, but this just seemed to come out of nowhere. Misty Knight is a character that kind of pops in and out when it necessitates it. Did it necessitate here? I don't know, I don't think so. It was pointless. Please let me know how much you got out of this book if you picked it up. I am a big Daredevil fan, so given that I have it on my pull list, the regular series, they throw this in as well. Anything that's Daredevil related, they will throw in, and I foolishly went and picked this up. So, these DC and Looney Tunes crossover one-shots, I made an impulse purchase. I decided to pick this one up. I think maybe because it was just a variant edition, and as I said on Wednesday, I was probably high on flu medication. Probably dosed myself up so much I didn't even know what I was doing. There are three ways, basically, that these crossovers can go. And that's basically, the first way is that we get, obviously, a Looney Tunes character in the DC universe, and we have a story. Or it can go, we have a DC character thrown into a Looney Tunes universe. Or thirdly, and very rarely, and I can't really fully comment on this because I didn't pick up many of these, you get those ones that take both universes and make something new, and I'm guessing that's incredibly rare. Now this actually went both of the former ways, the Looney Tunes in the DC universe, and I guess the DC universe in the Looney Tunes universe. Because you get two stories in here. You get a longer first story, which is the DC universe, Daffy Duck sort of teaming up with the Joker after Daffy Duck falls by accident into the Joker's latest secret lair, and then becomes somewhat of a henchman for the Joker. The problem I have with the first story, it bugged me the way this ended. Daffy Duck, yes, he's quite the mad, eccentric, potentially insane type of character. So to hook him up with the Joker, it does make somewhat of a kind of sense, as he builds the Joker a huge new layer. It's extremely extravagant, it's certainly not secretive, but it screams Daffy Duck's kind of high energy, loud, brash nature. And that's where his kind of eccentricity stops. It's all about pushing boundaries to a certain extent. But unlike the Joker, who is criminally insane, and then Joker then uses Daffy to create a plan to take over, you know, this party, take down some people, rob them, whatever. It's a Joker kind of, you know, journey of ridiculousness, over the top theatrics, but with a killing edge to it. And Daffy doesn't want to go that extra mile, and so although he helps the Joker out in this kind of plan, he basically ruins it for the Joker. So the laughing gas that he provides the Joker in the canisters is actually sneezing. The getaway car, the wheels fall off, etc, etc. It's for laughs and giggles. Obviously the Joker is not happy, but the story kind of gets easily wrapped up with the two of them getting taken to Arkham Asylum. Now I think that's a bit rough on Daffy because, as I said, he may be technically insane, but he's actually harmless. He's more harm to himself than he is to the populace at large. And to throw him then into Arkham Asylum with the Joker just seems a little bit too crazy. And I know it's just a silly one-shot, but it just didn't feel right. The backup story, obviously much shorter, had that kind of cartoony feel. We're now firmly in the Looney Tunes universe as Daffy Duck goes into Arkham Asylum. These stories are so not related in any way, they have no connection, but he comes in to psych evaluate the Joker after the Joker has kind of basically turned the latest batch of psychoanalysts insane themselves. There's jokes aplenty, some at the expense of DC in some ways, if you read these through, and it was a much funner, kind of lighter, silly story which I could kind of get on board with, but ultimately there was nothing special about this particular one-shot. If you can name me, and like I said, I haven't picked up many of these, there was the Hanna-Barbera ones as well. If you can tell me one that doesn't fit into the just placing a DC character in a Looney Tunes universe or vice versa, and that it becomes something above those, then please recommend it to me down in the comments, and I'll go and find it and try and hunt it out and see what I think. X-Men Blue is coming to an end in the next couple of issues. It finishes with issue 36. With issue 34, strangely enough, the book is starting to get a little better. And I don't feel so much that I'm just collecting this now to finish the run off and have a complete collection. I know, comic book reader syndrome. And it's a shame, and I find this happens with all these kind of lower tier X books, that as soon as they start doing something good, they decide to slap it off, and what we get led up to in the superfluous story and title that gets cancelled kind of gets thrown into the latest big event, and that's what's going on with this Extinction event that's going on, and I guess that's going to lead into the weekly Uncanny X-Men series. Because this is still obviously dealing with our time-displaced teenagers, but we are in the future now. We're finding out where Magneto went to when he disappeared just at the end of the Mother Vine storyline. He went on his little time sled, his time device, went into the future, saw yet another apocalyptic outcome where he saved mutant kind, but obviously to devastating effect. And it shows, certainly in this book, that, and again, it's that whole kind of time future line storylines that could or couldn't happen. You know, very conveniently, these things don't have to occur to happen in these books, because they can go back to the past and try and sort it out. But it does raise a point here, as we saw at the finale of the last issue. Time-displaced teenagers, X-Men, clearly from this future storyline, didn't go back to their original time, because they're here, they're older, they're more experienced, and they're here to take down Magneto, to stop whatever he does in the present for their future to occur. It's that crazy timeline story, future versions, as I said, that may or may not happen, but at least it felt more interesting. And I mean, obviously we don't know yet what is going to happen with these teenage versions of the X-Men that are now in present day. And I guess because the book is about them, perhaps through Extinction, perhaps through Uncanny X-Men, they do all go back to their own timeline. Or, you know, something else happens to them. I don't know. But this just started getting better, and now it's ending. It's Marvel 2-in-1, The Human Torch and The Thing by Chip Zdarsky, and I was kind of reticent to have this so high up on my list for two reasons. One is the obvious continuity error by Marvel on this title. This has come out far too late, given that the new Fantastic Four title is already out, and we are obviously getting the original team back together. And obviously here, they're still stuck in another dimension, and as the cover says, they're powerless. The other reason that I don't like having to put this up so high, but I still really dig the story that's going on here, is the artwork. It is not good. I think I said on Wednesday when I'd been browsing through it and showed you some panels, it does feel very much like a rush job, that it is some sort of Photoshop quick, let's get this out to try and catch up, because yes, Fantastic Four #1 is already out. And I feel bad about saying that. Who was the artist on this? Perez? What's his? Ramon K. Perez. The name rings a bell, but perhaps this is not their best work. And this was just kind of a needs must type of deal. But like I said, this story, what has been going on in this title, has been really good, and I've loved Chip Zdarsky's run on this. Whether this is going to continue after our two heroes of the book get back to the Fantastic Four and we get someone new, I don't know. Whether Chip Zdarsky will continue with this book, I don't know. Let me know down there, because I know you lot love to Google this stuff. You look at all the comic book websites that I browse occasionally, so you'll know more than I do. Let me know in the comments section what's going on with this title. The book feels a bit like one of those kind of Old Man Logan or Old Man Hawkeye books, except the guys aren't old. They just basically don't have their powers anymore. We've seen this degradation of their powers throughout this series, because the bond between the Fantastic Four, clearly they need each other together to keep their powers alive. This is the new Fantastic Four power set deal. So we've now come to a point where what little power they did have seems to have depleted. They are basically surviving as normal everyday human beings that need to, you know, make money in this weird kind of apocalyptic deserted desert universe, with Peter Parker as this crazy spider god ruler, and it's fun to see them both, regardless the fact that they don't have any powers, still act the heroes and try and save this little town that they've come to from the Thinker, who has decided to take on the mantle of Reed Richards, because there is no Fantastic Four in the Marvel 616 universe, so he thinks he can fill that gap, and he's brought around kind of siphons for each of the Fantastic Four, but of course they're all villainous, and of course they're all going to get taken down, which is what primarily Human Torch and the Thing, Ben and Johnny do. Which is all great stuff until they run off into the desert, but who's coming the opposite direction? But it's Peter Parker as the kind of villainous spider. So they have to make a quick detour. Boom! There's mines in this desert. They get flung away, and they wake up to a very familiar face. And I said there were spoilers. She's upside down, but is that our Sue? I think it might be. This storyline is clearly coming to an end to make way for the Fantastic Four coming together. I would like to hope that at least the art stylings here isn't how we're going to finish what has been a great little mini-series from Chip Zdarsky. Again, this is a title, Exo Man of War issue number 18, part of this kind of flashback storyline from Matt Kindt called Barbarians, that I don't know necessarily in a normal week would have been so high on my list of it being entertaining, because, and I've mentioned this many times in this particular storyline, but quite frankly, and certainly with this issue, you could have quite easily replaced Arik with Conan, because it was such a Conan type story. We have him captured with this kind of mystic, supernaturally type guy. Well, not supernatural, but he can apparently see the future, and he's kind of teamed up with them, but they're in the middle of this kind of Colosseum where they're about to battle whatever's thrown at them, basically. And what is thrown at them? Well, this whole Colosseum gets filled with water, and these big kind of pirate ships pile in. And at first, when I started reading this, I thought, oh, they've come to rescue them. But no, this is all part of the crazy the crazy action, the scene that has been set by this, I guess, are they Roman? Yes, Roman emperor. And so it is basically Arik and his ally taking them all down in violent, bloody fashion, to the point where Arik basically destroys and capsizes both the ships, and they escape through a drain hole at the end and make their escape, to then continue to try and save the younger brother of one of his tribe, I guess, one of his home community members. And I guess the kind of twist on all the trials and tribulations that Arik has been through to get to the point where he can go and rescue this guy is that the younger brother actually doesn't want to be saved. He is quite happy being the servant of this, I guess, kind of Roman senator, because, you know, he's treated well, he's open to all the kind of art and culture that the Roman Empire brought these lands, and so basically Arik goes off with his tail between his legs. This was for nothing. And I kind of come to the conclusion that, well, what was the point in this storyline? Apart from the obvious, there's a whole Harbinger Wars 2 mini-series event going on at Valiant, and I guess they're using Arik, the present day one, in that. I'm glad we've kind of done with this now, and we'll see where Matt Kindt next takes Arik, as we see him back in his own timeline, and we see his him coming to terms with the fact that things have moved on since he's been away. His mate, his girlfriend, his partner has moved on. She's now with someone else. The world has basically changed, and Arik is now going to have to fit into that if he wants to stay. And I'm guessing that's where the next storyline takes us. We'll see what happens in the next issue. I have really enjoyed this title. Perhaps up to this point, this seems to have been a bit of a fluff, insubstantial storyline from Matt Kindt in his run on Exo Man of War. Hopefully we'll get back to some more original type tales in this particular character's universe. So we finally come to my pick of the week. I only say it like that because there wasn't really a great deal to choose from. But I guess of these issues that I picked up this week, Moon Knight 198 got as close to it, I guess, as it could. Moon Knight is a very strange title to be within the Marvel kind of universe right now, and in a way that's a good thing. On the reverse side of that, the flip side of that, is that, okay, we get it, Moon Knight is messed up in the head. We've had this for quite some time now, and I thought, at least to a point, we dealt with it. We'd sorted this shit out. Apparently not. As Max Bemis still takes this concept of, you know, all these characters that are playing out in Mark Spector's head, that come out occasionally doing the things that perhaps Mark Spector can't deal with. So we have this, I'm guessing it's a kind of wrap up of the current Society de Sadiq storyline, where Moon Knight has infiltrated this event for new inductees into this group of sadists, headed by Ernst, this Nazi that Mark accidentally fell into seeing Ernst kind of torture all of these young children when he was a child underneath a synagogue that he was, worshipping in, I guess. I think that came in the annual. It's well worth a read. Find that out to get more kind of backstory if you're reading this and missed out on it. And basically what the issue is a series of trials that Moon Knight has to go through to be accepted into this society. So you get these trials, and they kind of progress and get bigger and more creative and vile, I guess, with each trial. So in the first one, he has to kill a dolphin. In the second one, he kills a guy for animal cruelty. The irony there is not lost. The third trial, he basically has a psych evaluation with, I think it's Fool Killer, which kind of leads nowhere. We know exactly what's wrong with Moon Knight, and I don't think Fool Killer gets any closer. The fourth trial, we have Morpheus messing around with his head. But in between all, kind of in these trials, you get kind of glimpses at what's going on in Mark's head, and obviously all his other identities are kind of helping him get through it. It is the kind of case that, they all have their own kind of strengths, but they also have their own weaknesses. There's another trial where Moon Knight basically gets to beat up all the rest of those sadists that we saw and were given backstories for in the first part of this storyline. And then we get to, I guess, what is the final trial, and that is to kill a small child. And obviously Mark Spector can't go through with this, and you see this great kind of scene with Jake inside, the head space, really berating Mark for not doing this. His own child, what's her name? She's got a really weird name. It's like Beatrice or something like that. Where's it gone? Oh, I can't find. Yeah. Beatrice. Weird name, sorry. Sorry if your name's Beatrice. But yes, Beatrice could get killed if he doesn't kill this other child. And of course, Mark Spector can't do it. Jake Lockley says he's going to do it, but in the end, when he takes over Mark Spector's body, neither can he, and he obviously fails and is not inducted. The menace of him not doing that, because obviously Ernst uses the hostage of his own daughter as kind of pushing him into that scene, just seems to go away. There doesn't seem a threat any longer. It was more, I guess, a bluff from Ernst, which kind of fell flat towards the end of this issue, and then you just see them flying away. This has all been like one huge construct, and it's just the rest of the followers of this society that are gonna perhaps try and take down Moon Knight, which we know of course isn't gonna happen, and the story just finished. Like I said, it was the best of a pretty mediocre bunch this week. What else to say? It was a weird week. I'm really sorry. I tried to remain as positive as I could. Thank you all for watching. Please let me know down in the comments section if you had differing opinions of the books I read. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on anything that I read, and maybe give me some recommendations for other books that I could possibly pick up, given there's some books leaving the pull list probably very soon and ending. Until next time, thank you for watching. I will see you on Wednesday with a whole set of new comic books. Bye bye.